from trade to health care, from energy to immigration. Everything was stolen and rigged in order to drain the wealth out of the productive, hardworking people who make our country great, who make our country run. Under Biden and his corrupt partners in Congress and beyond, the same people in this chamber who voted for those disasters suddenly use the word affordability. Their policies created the high prices. Our policies are rapidly ending them.
President Trump delivering a message of hope and pride in the American spirit in last night's record-long State of the Union address, an hour and 48 minutes. The president touted his record after a year back in office, promising bigger and better things to come for all Americans. Republicans are hoping this speech will jumpstart the midterm agenda and help them maintain control of Congress. The primaries begin next week in Texas. And, of course, we're watching the Senate come November. Joining me now is New York Congressman Mike Lawler. Congressman, great to see you. Thanks for joining the conversation.
Thanks for having me, Marie.
Your reaction to the president's speech last night?
I thought it was very good. I thought, obviously, the president delivered a robust defense of his administration and the Republican Congress and the work we've done, especially with the tax bill, securing the border, ending these conflicts around the globe. But he also delivered beautiful moments for the American people, bringing the U.S. Olympic hockey team out, giving 2 medals of honor out, that 100-year-old veteran, as well as the pilot on the Maduro mission, reuniting a Venezuelan political prisoner with his niece, honoring the mother of the Ukrainian immigrant who was brutally murdered. And the Democrats, once again, like last year, refused to stand in these poignant moments, refused to acknowledge some of their policy failures. And the president, unlike last year, this year he called them out to their face. And frankly embarrassed them, especially when he asked every single member of Congress to take a stand for the American people over illegal immigrants. And not one Democrat stood up. Not one Democrat stood up for the American people and protecting them over illegal immigrants. And I think that's the moment that is going to resonate most with the American people. I think the president pointed out the economic record and contrasted it very well with Joe Biden's disastrous 4 years and the disastrous spending that Democrats engaged in, in those first 2 years, adding $5 trillion in new spending, giving us record inflation. The fact is, you look at the tax bill, not only did we deliver no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, a new $6,000 tax deduction for seniors, which every senior is going to benefit from, whether they take the standard deduction or itemized. But we also lifted the cap on salt. And you look at the juxtaposition. In New York, Zohran Mamdani is talking about raising property taxes by 9.5% and demanding Kathy Hochul raise taxes by $9 billion. I fought for and delivered the single largest tax cut in the whole bill, lifting the cap on salt. The average New Yorker is going to see a $4,000 tax cut on their federal income taxes. So I think the president laid out the agenda. He laid out the path ahead on health care, on housing, on energy. I think he was right on AI to call on these tech companies to actually pony up for their own energy needs. He talked about, housing and going after institutional investors. We're going to a meeting this morning at the Treasury Department to talk about that. So a lot in the speech that I think he covered. It sure
was, and I know that the salt increase was really important to you, and you held out for that for as long as you could, and you were successful there. Kevin, what about that? I mean, he also talked about the impact of the big beautiful bill, saying that there's more to come. We haven't seen the best of it yet.
People have a lot of it didn't go into effect until January, and what's so extraordinary here is the amount of inflation we had under Biden and how quickly he's brought a lot of that back. I mean, he's put us on such a better path, and now with the big beautiful bill, you're going to really feel it this year coming through. But there's one point I would really make: the contrast. the tax cuts all you do. Then you got Mandani, and then they had Spanberger, who becomes governor. Her first thing is she's killing affordability. Yeah. She's raising all these taxes.
Yeah.
So they're going back to the Biden path if they want to come into power, and Trump's showing a new direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point because the Democrats keep talking about affordability, and yet while they're doing so, they're raising taxes. We got to get back to Mamdani for a second because in addition to him threatening us New Yorkers that we are going to see a 9.5% increase in property tax, he's not exactly respecting the NYPD. I mean, there was a snowball fight where people in the park the other day were throwing snowballs at NYPD officers, and then he comes and he addresses it. He didn't do himself any favors with how he addressed it. Here's what he said. Watch this.
I've seen videos of kids throwing snowballs at members of the NYPD in Washington Square Park. And first, I want to say that officers have been on the front line of helping our city respond to this blizzard. They have been keeping New Yorkers safe, and they have also been at the heart of our efforts of digging New Yorkers' cars out of these kinds of conditions and ensuring that our ambulances, our MTA buses can keep functioning across this city. They and our entire city workforce deserve to be treated with respect. The only person in our city's workforce who deserves to be treated with a snowball is me.
You said that there were kids throwing snowballs. Do you know that for a fact, or is it possible these were adults?
I can just tell you from the video I saw, it looked like kids at a snowball fight.
That was really disgusting. I mean, look at what they're doing to our NYPD officers here. And that's how he responds. Look at this. He just slammed a snowball on an NYPD officer's head. Why aren't those people arrested?
Every single one of these people should be arrested. He is the mayor of the largest police force in America. And the fact that he would allow these officers to be treated like that is disturbing beyond belief. These folks should be arrested and prosecuted, anybody that is identifiable in that video. This goes to a larger problem in America. There is no respect for the rule of law. There is no respect for law enforcement, especially on the Democratic side of the aisle.
Yeah.
The president talked last night about reducing crime to the lowest level since 1900.
Unbelievable.
And they would not get up and applaud. I couldn't believe it.
Murder rates dropping.
Murder rates dropping.
Exactly.
And they're not applauding.
And
he called them out.
Real quick before you go, the Democrats, Senate Democrats, blocking a bill to fund the Department of Homeland Security, prolonging this shutdown. We're now entering day 12. The measure fell short of the 60-vote threshold, 50 to 45, pardon me. This impasse stalled a vote on the Save America Act. So, you know, the president's calling on Congress to pass the legislation. Will you vote? I mean, you've already voted yes in the House. But do you believe this is ever going to see the light of day?
Look, the Senate obviously has the filibuster, and that is the biggest impediment to getting this bill passed. I think Leader Thune needs to put this on the floor and demand the Democrats actually get on the floor and explain why they will not support voter ID. Meanwhile, Zohran Mamdani is requiring 5 forms of ID to shovel snow, and why they won't support requiring proof of citizenship to vote. Democrats in New York tried to pass legislation to allow illegal immigrants to vote in New York City elections. We fought back, we won in court, and we stopped it. But for them to not support legislation that requires voter ID and proof of citizenship is disgraceful.
Kevin, I want to get your take on this later on. Let's take a break and then come back to it. It's great to see you, Congressman.
Thanks,
Thank you very much. Congressman Mike Lawler from New York. Stay with us. We'll be right back.